In our previous video, we talked about if statements, and in this video, we are going to talk about conditional operators, also known as ternary operators. We are also going to talk about switch case statements. So, without further delay, let's dive into it. Let's first talk about conditional operators or ternary operators. And to understand this, let's take an example from our previous video where we computed if a number is positive or negative using if-else statement. And we are going to take a value from the user. So first declare a variable and we are going to declare it as integer. Now recall to take a value from the user, we write a scanf function. Inside of it, we write the type of variable. In our case, it's an integer, so we write %d, then comma. After that, we write the and symbol followed by the name of the variable. Now to start with, we are first going to write an if statement with a condition if number is greater than or equal to 0. Then we are going to print a message saying this is a positive number. Otherwise, if that is not the case, meaning if the number is less than 0, we are going to write a statement this is a negative number. And if you run this for a positive number, we see this is a positive number. Similarly, for a negative number, this should display this is a negative number. So if I see a negative number 29, we get an output as expected. Now as you can see, this if-else statement consumes 4 lines. But with the help of a conditional operator or a ternary operator, I can reduce this to just 1 line. Let's first comment out this if statement so that our C program does not execute them. So it's going to ignore these lines. Now let's start with the conditional operator or ternary operator. So the first thing we do is to write the condition. In our case, we have a condition if a number is greater than or equal to 0. After that, we write question mark and then the statement that we want to get executed when this condition evaluates to true. So the statement that we want to execute if it evaluates to true is this printf statement. And then instead of this else, we write the colon. And after that, we are going to write this statement which is going to get executed after the condition evaluates to false. And that's it. Now if we run this, we should get the similar output we got from if else. So if I run this and let's give a positive number, let's say 26. If I hit enter, I get the output as expected. Similarly, if we write a negative number, let's say 23, and we get the output this is a negative number. Let's take one more example. Let's say given two numbers, we want to compute the greatest among the two. So we are going to need 3 variables. 2 of them will store the numbers and 1 of them will store the result. The result variable will be named as max because it's going to store the maximum of the two. So then we are going to take these 2 numbers from the user. Now since we are storing the value to the max, we have to write max equals to, and then the condition would be if number 1 is greater than num2, then what we are going to do is that we are going to return the greatest number. So if number 1 is greater than number 2, then we are going to return number 1. Otherwise, we are going to return number 2. And after that, we are going to print this max variable, which is going to store the maximum of the two. And let's write the message. Now if we run this and let's say number 5, and then for the next we will say number 7, and as you can see the greatest among the two is 7. Let's run it one more time. Let's give a number of 9 and let's give a number of -5. The greatest among the two is 9. Now let's move on to switch case statements. And to understand switch cases, let's take an example where given a number 0 or 1, we are going to display male for 0 and female for 1. So we declare a variable of integer and let's name it gender, and let's take the value from the user. Now to start with, first we write the keyword switch, then the parenthesis followed by the name of the variable. So in our case it is gender, so we write the gender and then we write the body of the switch, and inside of the body we have the cases. So let's start with the first case. In our example, the first case would be 0, and we have this 0 because our gender variable is either going to store 0 or 1, and we are going to first deal with the 0. So the first case we are going to use is 0. So after that we write the colon. So what we are going to do when we have a case 0, meaning when the value of a variable is 0. In that case we are going to display message saying male, and then we have this break. Break is going to simply get us out of the case so that we don't enter in next case unintentionally. Next we are going to write another case which is going to handle the value of 1. So in case of 1, when our variable is going to hold 1, in that case we are going to display female. Now since there is no case after this case 1, we can omit the break statement of this case 1. So even if you write it, there is no use of this break here. So let's remove this. Now let's see how this is going to work. Now if the gender stores a value of 0, this case is going to be executed because the value 0 is equal to the value of this case. So it's going to go into the case and execute all the statements. So in case of 0, we should see this message male on the screen, and then when it's done, it's going to break. This break is going to get us out of this case, which in turn is going to get us out of this switch. On the other hand, if we have a value of 1 in this gender, it's going to start from the first case and it's not going to see the match because 1 is not equal to 0. So it's going to go to the next case, which is this case 1, and it's going to see the match. So it's going to go into the case and execute all the statements. So in case of 1, we should see this message which is female on the screen. Now what if I run this program with an input of other than 0 and 1? Let's see. Let's give a value of, let's say, 4. Now if I hit enter, you see that it does not display any message on the screen. The reason is that there is no case satisfying that value. So there are only two cases, 0 and 1. That's why you don't see any message on the screen. In the same way, no matter which number I write except 0 and 1, I am always going to get no output. So what I can do is that I can have a case for each number, but that's not possible. As you can see, you cannot write case for every number. So what I can do is that I can have a general case, and in that general case it's going to handle all the numbers except 0 and 1, and this general case is known as default. Just like in an if statement we have else, similarly in switch case we have a default. For our example, we are going to write other. Now no matter which input I give it except 0 and 1, it's always going to give me this other. So if I run this with a value of, let's say, 7, I get other. Similarly, if I run it with a different value of, let's say, 3, I get other. If you notice carefully, there is a problem in this program. Did you notice it? Okay, let's run this and see the output. If I run this with an input of 1, what do you think the output of this would be? If you said just female, then I'm sorry to say you're wrong. If I hit enter, you see that it does not only write female, but immediately after that you see other. So what caused this to happen? If you notice carefully that after this case has been satisfied, it's going to go and execute this message, so it's going to display this message. But as you can see, there is no break after this message. It's going to jump into this default, and it's going to then execute all the statements in the default. In our example, it's going to display this message as well. That's why we see these two messages on the screen. Now to solve this, we write break inside of this case. So this break helps us to break out of the case. Now if I run this, we should see the right output. So if I give it an input of 1, we see the output female. Switches are considered faster than if, because in case of if, we have to first evaluate the condition. So there is a condition that we have to evaluate, so there is an overhead. While as in case of switch, we don't have a condition. We just have to take the value of a variable and match it with the case. If it gets the match, we execute the statements and break out of the switch. Otherwise, we keep on matching with the next cases in the line. And with that, we come to an end of this video. The assignment would be in the description, and you can send that on the email, which would also be in the description. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care.